Uh, well, it looks like we are live. Okay, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of the Narik Chase channel. I'm your boy Narik Chase, and since I wasn't able to do a head-to-head yesterday because I got out of work late, I'm going to go ahead and just do one now. In fact, I'm going to do two today to make up for it. And this one is something I've been wanting to do for a break of debates for a while now, but I said, you know what the hell with it, I'm just going to go ahead and put it on here. On this episode of Head to Head, I think this might be episode. I think 5. I think I'm on episode 5 now. I'm not sure. It's either 5 or 6. And if I get it wrong, I'm sorry. I'm still getting over this cold because I can kind of still hear the stuffiness in my ears. So let's go ahead and just get into this, guys. Look, we are going to be talking about Ghostbusters, the remake, the original versus the remake. Now, when I say original, I mean the 1984 one, I believe was when it came out. I think it dropped in 1984. Let's see. I don't know. Ooh. Yeah, I think it was 19. Yep, the 1984 versus the 2016. Now, when the 2016 one was announced, it was going to be an all-female cast. You can bet your sweet rump that there was a lot of internet backlash when it came to that. But I was one of the ones that was a bit worried. In fact, yeah, this is episode 6. Okay, I was a bit worried it was going to be terrible because of this whole SJW stuff, and they're trying to force everything instead of just actually telling a good story. But I actually end up liking it. Yes, it had problems in it, but I ended up actually enjoying it for the most part. And I went back and watched the original one. Found out just how much I really enjoyed that one as well. So let's go ahead and just get into this now. If y'all see my videos, you know how I normally do the format. There's plot, characters, cast, visuals, the score, and the writing, and probably other things to be associated into it. But I'm going to go ahead and just jump right into it. Now, in terms of, screw it. I'm just going to do what I do best. I try to go off the top of my dome. In terms of the actual characters, I will say that, in both movies, there are 3 characters that are scientists and one that's kind of a nobody, and they end up forming this group to go hunt ghosts together. Now, the characters are actually pretty cool on both sides of it. I do think that the original cast from the 1984 film was a bit more grounded, while as it feels like the cast from the 2016 film do feel a bit more like caricatures, a bit more over the top with the characters. Because if you think about it, you have Melissa McCarthy's character who was like a nerd, but she was kind of like a over the top nerd with some of the stuff that she did. What was that one crazy, the crazy one that was inventing everything? But she was like crazy, but she was like over the top type crazy, and I'm like, even with a bit of the black chick in the film, I keep forgetting her freaking name now. Let me look it up because I don't like talking and not actually remember these people freaking names. Yeah, 1984. I put 1894. Okay. You got Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig's Kate McKinnon, who played Jillian, and then there was Leslie Jones who played Patty. Now Jillian was the kind of the over the top, kooky, crazy character, and I think that's probably one of the things about this film that kind of hurt it a bit. Is it felt like all the characters were over the top. They didn't really feel grounded. I think of all of them, Abby is probably the most, not Melissa McCarthy's character. Kristen Wiig's character, Erin, was probably the most grounded out the group. And even if you take a look at Chris Hemsworth's character, Kevin, his character was completely, he was just a dumbass. And not only was he a dumbass, he was like an over the top dumbass. Whereas if you go back and you take a look at the cast, the characters from the original one, they were all pretty grounded. They all felt like they were real people. They all had these really interesting quirks about them that didn't feel too over the top. Yes, were they were all basically nerds, and I will say that Peter Venkman was probably the most grounded out. Peter Venkman, as well as Winston, probably were the most grounded out of the group. The only problem I had with like the only thing I didn't like about Winston's character in the film was he didn't do anything. That was like nothing. He was like, I'm sorry, he was like the token black guy. He didn't really bring anything to the table when it came to the characters. If you sit back and you look at it, it's like they put an ad out for like another person to join the group or whatever. He just showed up, just like nobody questioned his like credentials and really anything like that. And I always thought that was pretty weird, but I would say that the characters in this film were pretty much well grounded. The only character that did feel like he was a bit over the top was Rick Moranis. He was probably about the most over the top character of all of them. But if we're gonna go down the line of the actual characters, then I would definitely give it to the original ones because they felt more grounded than a reboot. So I'll just go ahead and then characters and the 1984 one. That is not to say that the characters from the remake aren't likable. It's not to say that their relationships aren't good because those elements are there. But the problem is they do feel a bit over the top at times. And even when you go back to seeing like Sigourney Weaver when she comes back in the remake, which I do like the fact that in this remake the original cast do make make an appearance. But it's like even with her character, she was over the top. So and look at the villain. The villain was just a caricature. He had no motivation whatsoever. Now, how do the actual teams work out? I actually did like the teams on both sides. I think there was a lot of great banter between them. I think the relationships were there, and they did support each other. And I think there is a bit of a developing arc, which I would say the developing arc as far as the team wise goes more to the remake than the actual original because when you watch the original it's like no, the characters they're they are who they are at the beginning of the movie, they are who are at the end of the movie. And towards the remake, I will say I think that they are who they are generally, but they do grow as a team towards the end of the film. So I will say that when it comes to like actual character development, I will say the reboot does it a bit better. Now, if we're going to go down to the story is pretty interesting on both sides of the fence, but the problem to me is both of them, the stories kind of have problems. Now let's go to and now when I say that I want to go into the setting I want to go a bit more in depth with it, as well as I said about the character development being more in the 2016 one. Is also the building of this team that the 2016 does a hell of a lot better than the original one, because in the original one there's the moment when you see that they've created this cool technology, and then the next scene there's no testing phase. The next scene they're actually like going to capture ghosts. That was the testing scene, but you don't see them testing it. The 2016 version, you see them testing. They're building these things. They're testing them out, which is one of the pretty cool scenes that happened in the movie. Was seeing them actually test these out before they went into the field, so that you. And I think that again led up more towards this character development, this team development that was absent in the first film. Also, the motivations of the villains. Now, in the original one, uh, uh, in the original one, I'm trying to see. I'm sorry, guys. Jesus Christ. Okay, in the In the original one, what? Oh, the result of the Zool. Oh, okay. In the original one, our main villain is Zool, the gatekeeper, and Vince Clortho, the gatekeeper and keymaster, who are trying to summon this godlike being named Gozer to basically wipe out the world. And then in the reboot, we get this guy named Rowan, who's trying to unleash the fourth cataclysm. That's cataclysm, and both of them are a bit hokey because with the whole Zool thing, my problem with the Zool thing is there's no build up for it. It isn't like this was like a prophecy or anything, and at this time, this is when the build up is happening. It just kind of feels out of the blue, especially with Ghost kind of being established now in this film. I think it's a really cool premise. I just think that the film doesn't really do a good job of building up to it. It's like the first half of the movie is them trying to convince the world that ghosts exist, and they're putting the name on themselves. Then all of a sudden, this Zool stuff just kind of jumps off, and it's like, why hasn't this Zool stuff jumped off before? Them becoming Ghostbusters. Now, it is an interesting premise. I'll give it that. It's really cool, and I like that the film does like the whole last half with them and everything is like really cool and everything. But I just don't think the film builds up to it that much. And as well as the Rowan thing, I do not like him as like his whole motivation. That character was just dumb, and I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they said this guy. Now, if there was like a cult or something that did this and they were trying to summon the fourth cataclysm, fine, I could deal with that. But just some guy that out of nowhere just ends up just doing this stuff just completely stupid. Also, there's one thing again that the 2016 movie did better than the original that I really like. Next to the whole technology and everything to test it, and the diversity of the technology too. I would say that too. Like there was diversity to the technology, and it was really cool. The glove, the pistols. Wasn't there a whip at one point too? So there was a lot that the film did with the technology that was really cool. Now, if you're going back towards the ghost, this is one thing I did not like that was in the original. In the original movie, everybody joked and said ghosts did not exist. And then when this group of guys say they want to start hunting ghosts just all of a sudden start showing up out of the woodwork. And it's like there's no way in hell these people can laugh and say that ghosts do not exist when ghosts are as frequent as they are in this movie. I'm like, how in the hell all these ghosts? And I can understand because of what was going on with Zool and Gozer and all of that stuff. But I'm like, the ghosts were out before these guys even showed up. So it's like, how in the hell does humanity not believe in ghosts? That does not make any sense. So in the reboot, it makes more sense because this guy ends up like tearing kind of breaching the bridge between the living and the dead world in the afterlife, and that's how the ghosts actually start coming into our world. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense because in this world, ghosts have been established not to have existed. But then when you go, but when he breaches this gateway or whatever, then the ghosts start kind of flooding in. That makes more sense, and it makes more sense for them to be a rarity in Ghost because of this barrier between the worlds. And yes, there may be a moment where that barrier gets weakened and the ghost might slip through, but it makes more sense for the ghost to show up when there have never been any signs of ghosts. Now makes a hell of a lot more sense now in this film. And like I said, I understand that you got I understand that the Zool and the demigods, and that could have led to a spike in ghost activity. But I'm like, no, because the ghosts were showing up before they even made an appearance in the world. So that was one of the things I didn't like. That was one of the things I hated about the first film that the second that the reboot actually got right to me. I would say that now if you're going towards the effects, yes, the effects for the time were pretty good, and it's still enjoyable to watch now. Yeah, there's some kookiness to the effects then that do not hold up now. And yes, the new film looks a hell of a lot fucking better. Also, I will say the ghosts do feel. There are moments where the ghosts do feel scarier in the original, but there are also some moments in the remake that the ghosts feel a bit more scarier too. And I do like the designs on both ends of the film of the fence. There is a bit more of an ethereal. Yes, the like the green screen effects for the original and everything. But the ghosts do look pretty cool for the most part. And when there are some moments where they get scary, they are pretty freaking scary. And in the remake, there are some pretty cool the ethereal look where it seems like all these ghosts are glowing, and it does highlight. It does make the ghosts look really unique in a way. There are some ghosts that aren't as bad, I guess, but the ones that are like the overall designs for them are fucking awesome. I'll give them that. The one creature I didn't really care for was kind of that dragon demon thing. Like that one I didn't really too much care for. But think about the original, the lost daughter that pops up in the first scene. She looks freaking awesome, and she's just radiating this really cool ethereal energy that looks just freaking phenomenal. So, like, I really enjoy that one. I look, the gray lady from the original. Okay, she's cool and everything, but I like the forgotten daughter. She was a hell of a lot. She was cool as fuck. If we're looking also in terms of like the final boss, in each movie there's like they fight a final boss. But before that, I would say the guy that got electrocuted, the ghost that was electrocuted in the subway that they met, that ghost was scary as hell. Like that thing was beast. That's probably one of my favorite. That was one of when I did my top 10 or top 20 like ghosts. That was one of my favorite ghosts like in films because it looked really cool and it was really scary. Yeah, in the final one you had the Stay Puff Marshmallow Man, and then in the remake they ended up fighting the Ghostbusters logo, which I thought the logo was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was pretty cool too. The only problem I had with that was it wasn't like it was like a pretty cool battle, but it really wasn't like a battle. Like you didn't see this thing like tearing up the city. And that's why I said the Ghostbusters logo one. It was like, yeah, he was kind of messing up the city a little bit. That's what I kind of wanted to see. And the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was cool, but it wasn't like he was just destroying the city and they were trying to stop him. So I will say that. But it was pretty, but the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was a pretty cool scene too. Uh, Pretty adorable. But I think the Ghostbusters logo was actually done a bit better because, like I said, he was actually destroying the city and stuff. I don't understand how the hell this dude became that thing, but okay, fine. I will say that the jokes in the original one are a bit better. They land a bit more. While as in the remake, there are some moments where okay, there was some pretty funny jokes, pretty funny gags and stuff. But then there are also moments where they felt kind of flat. You know, they were like over the top. They were unnecessary, and I think that did hurt the film to a certain extent. Because like a lot of those moments, like one of my favorite moments of the film that it was funny, but it was also, but they went on it, they bragged on it a little bit too much. Was the part where Melissa McCarthy's character gets possessed by the ghost or whatever, and then the black chick like slaps her, like she was like what she said, the power of Patty compels you. She like smacks her, and then she smacks and she's yelling it. So I was like, oh, okay, the first yell line was cool and she smacked her, but then she yelled something else and then smacked her again, and I was like, okay, that right there was a little too much. You could have just ran with it the first time, but it was pretty cool because she ended up smacking the ghost out of her. So like moments like that. And what was the other part where when they were actually trying to tell the mayor, or they were talking to some official, I think it was the mayor actually, that ghosts were real and they're just about to go to hell. And then you got the weird scientist chick, just kind of making like these weird faces and doing this like weird stuff. And I'm like, why is she doing this? And I'm like, look, I understand you're a very eccentric character, but damn it, kind of pull it back in a little bit. So there are moments like that I think that they could have worked on a little bit better. I do like the soundtracks from both of the films. I did love the remake of the theme song. It ain't long, but you do get a little bit of it. And it was pretty freaking sweet. Also, I didn't mind the conclusion of it as well. These guys were established on both ends. I do love the fact that in the remake, it didn't focus on Zool, but they did a little tidbit that would have led to a sequel about Zool. Like, the black chick is like listening to the headphones. She's like, "Have y'all heard the name Zool?" That right there is like a perfect cliffhanger, a perfect cliffhanger. And I would love to have seen the sequel, but as of now, I guess they've canceled it. Any idea for a sequel, which I thought was actually unfortunate, because now they're trying to retcon that one to actually do a third installment of the original, which, okay, at this point, it's like, stop retconning stuff. Stop it. Damn it. You've already made this movie what people didn't like in the first remake. Fix it in the sequel. And it's not like the movie bombed, because I don't think it bombed at all. I guess it did. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it got his money back, but it didn't. Yeah. Man. Yeah, it bombed. Gosh. I I mean, I would have liked to seen a sequel specifically because they left off with that line, but I I mean, guess what it is, what it is. In terms of this, actually, I think that both films do a good job telling the stories that they're told. Okay, we get a chance to get into the insights of some of the characters, and like I said, the characters are pretty likable on both ends. Although, like I've said, I think the ones from the reboot, which I do like the tagline "Ghostbusters Answer the Call." That actually looks more cool than just Ghostbusters 2016. So Answer the Call, I'm gonna start saying Answer the Call is actually pretty cool. But I do think that the characters, to some extent, are just a bit more cartoonish in this one. Uh, and I like both films. I like both films, but I will say that Answer the Call does do things a bit better in terms of the actual setup and the storytelling, better than the original. Now, the biggest question is it a bad film because of the all female cast? To some extent, yes, and to some extent, no. Because this is one of those moments where they just did role reversal instead of actually doing a good job of writing the characters. But like I said, the characters are pretty decent for the most part. And in the original, the characters are pretty cool. I think, but Winston doesn't really have enough to his character. But I do think that the black chick in Answer the Call actually has a bit more depth to her than Winston does. Has a bit more backstory. Has a bit more to contribute to the overall story than Winston did in the original. So I think that again, the whole female cast, um, like I said, does hurt it to some extent because it's like, well, why did it have to be females? If you said that in the original film, like in that time period, you would say dudes were more prominent in those types of actual roles. Yes, females were in it, but you see dudes would be a bit more prominent. So of course it would make sense because of that time period that the entire cast were dudes. But like now it's like, okay, do these characters all have to be chicks? And it kind of felt like they were doing the whole SJW thing a little bit. But at the same time, I don't mind the fact that they were chicks because I actually did like the characters. And they weren't that whole "I don't need a man" thing. I did like that. They weren't this "I don't need a man. I'm too tough to take on everything." Like I like the fact that it wasn't like that. So in this episode edition of Head to Head, I would say it's about even. I don't like calling it evens, but I have to be pretty fair because I like the human in the original, the characters in the original, the story of the original. I do like the effects, and I do like the score. But I do like the story and the characters and the development and setup of the world and stuff. And I do love the visuals, and I did like the action that was in the film. I'll be quite frankly, the action in Answer the Call is a fuck ton more better than the original. Just saying. But so it's up to you guys. In the comment section below, let me know which one did you like better, the original, or do you like the reboot? Now I want y'all to be honest about it. I don't want people to be just nostalgia, just cut off the 2016 film just because it's a reboot and it wasn't exactly what they wanted to see from the franchise. I want y'all to be a bit more fair, because I want that to be a bit more fair judgment of the film. Just don't shit on the film because it's not the original film. Give this film a chance. Give this film some credit because there's a lot of things that this film does a hell of a lot better than what was established in the original one. And when I say original, I mean the Act 84, and not really the sequel to that one. So not Ghostbusters 2. But yeah, guys, in the comments below, let me know which one did you like better. And also, be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and the notification button to get the best of what we got going on in this channel. We'll catch you guys later.